this week is a very special guest. You've probably seen him before if you've been around the atheist community the past couple of years. It is the one, the only, Aron Ra. Aron Ra, welcome to Truth Wanted. How are you doing tonight?
It's all right. It's all right. Oh, squirrel. I was just looking behind you.
Oh, yeah. Nico just finally found his place up there. Hopefully he'll stay up there. Gotta love that cat, other co-host of the show. So yes, Aron Ra has been around the block in the atheist scene. I'm pretty sure if you've been an atheist for long enough, you have seen his videos somewhere. He really focuses on a lot of things. I'd say he's probably most well known for his talks about young Earth creationism. And recently he just told me he's been doing some stuff to educate himself even more, and maybe we can go into that. But I thought that I want to start this off with a story before I got into any questions about Aron, because I think this story kind of encapsulates Aron in a way that's hard to explain otherwise. So the first time I met Aron was at American Atheist 2018, and this was in Oklahoma. I think it was at Tulsa, right? We were downtown Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I had been, Anthony Magnabosco was with me there, and he was invited to go to this kind of party that Daryl Ray was throwing. And Aron was on the way to that party too. So it was kind of cool. This was my first real big atheist event. So I was meeting a bunch of different people. You know, I was volunteering at the atheist community of Austin before that, but this is the first time meeting a bunch of people. But this party was across the street at a hotel from the convention center we were at. So Aron was walking with us. We kind of had a bunch of us all kind of together, and down the street, it was like Easter weekend. So they had like this big basketball thing going on down the street. The streets were totally crowded. Lots of kids and families and stuff. And Aron is out here on this very sunny day, all black, just looking like the Undertaker from WWE. Like, he's rocking it. Like, that's just Aron's style. And if you know Aron, and if you see him at enough events, you know that's just his thing. That's what he does. And what was funny about this moment was, as he was walking across the street with his brimmed hat and he's got the sunglasses, a bunch of police officers were walking with us at the same time across the street. Plus you have the rest of us kind of walking with him, and Aron was there with his wife too, and his wife was like all dressed up in black and stuff. And I noticed these families and everybody were starting to stare at Aron because he had these police officers around him. Aron looked like he was about to go to a rock concert and like just do something really like guest perform with Ozzy Osbourne or something. And I think people thought he was some sort of famous, you know, rock star about to go, because people were pointing and looking at it. It was really funny. So that's Aron, I think, in a nutshell. Just a guy who just, man, doesn't care what people think. He just says what he has to say, and you got to respect him for it. So Aron, thanks again for coming onto the show. I hope you like that story, because I know that's the first time you heard it.
I do. Thank you. I don't remember that incident, strangely.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I just remember Ribbon Anthony just like kind of said, "Look at this guy. He's crazy." But yeah, I remember another time.
My daughter's roommate didn't know who I was. Right. I mean, she'd met me, obviously, but that's it. She didn't know anything else about me. And then she happens across in her TikTok somehow. There was a video of me that got into her feed, and suddenly this girl is freaking out, asking me, "Is this your stepdad?"
That's pretty good.
This was in Cincinnati when I was arguing with a bunch of creationists outside of the event there, and I was in my warlock robes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny that ended up on her feed, and she's, "This is so weird."
Yeah, it's you got a wardrobe that you know strikes a memory for people. I mean, it really is unforgettable. There was another time, and I wasn't planning on telling another story, but there was a time where you were debating a guy at a church that was kind of close to Waco, Texas, actually. I remember because I was there hanging out with the Baylor Secular Student Alliance folks. And it was in this church. And so most of the people there were Christians. In fact, I think me and a couple other friends were like some of the only atheists. And you were out there and you were saying stuff that I'm pretty sure that church has never heard before. And just like, I don't know if it's like people looking around like, can he say this in a church? Like, is this even allowed? You were talking about, I think, just the methodology of science and stuff. But of course, I think you were talking about Christianity and stuff too, and just, you know, the bad parts of that, and people just were not prepared. They were not ready for you. So yeah, like I said, that's what Aron does best. He talks, you break down a lot of these arguments, especially with young earth creation stuff, but Christianity in general, like lots of religions in general. Yeah, what got you started with doing this stuff? Like what got you really passionate about it?
Well, one of the things that bothered me was when I was talking, as soon as I got online, pretty much back around Y2K, I found myself in a lot of discussions with believers and with scientists and everything. And one of these believers was bragging about how their church congregation had all voted exactly the way their minister told them all to vote. And this was in a coordinated coalition of all these different congregations across the state, where they were all electing specific judges and senators and school board members and everything, because there were all these ministers getting on the phone with each other to tell their congregations how to vote. So they're using the church as a lobby. Now, of course, this stands against the Johnson Amendment. That the reason that churches don't have to pay taxes is because they're not allowed to lobby, which of course we know they do. Right? I mean, what's the point? I don't think the I would like to see churches taxed, but more than that, I'd like to see them fined. But they were arguing about this culture war that they imagined to be going on. I'm like, what culture war? It just makes no sense. So the whole game was basically what was detailed later. It hadn't come out yet at that time. The wedge strategy, where they were talking about, you replace like every member of government possible with your evangelical friendly people, and then you undermine science education as the first step, so that if people can't trust science, then they'll be more ready to believe God, because God of the gaps fallacy. And then they were also undermining history and everything too, because they just had to fill it's gaslighting. They had to completely dominate the narrative to tell everybody that the United States was founded as a covenant between God and Moses.
Yeah, this is what's interesting, because, when I talk to people about this, I know other liberal friends that, believe in evolution and stuff, and they don't take a lot of this stuff seriously, but they do wonder, like, why do you care about what other people think when it comes to, like, the younger
because they own and control everything.
Well, there's that, but it's like over over a third of Americans really do believe this. And like the wedge strategy you're talking about too, right? Yeah, like that's not conspiracy theory. Like you can find that document, you can find the origins of that. That's and people will talk about how they were involved with that and still are involved in that.
At that time, the people that I was talking to at that moment were not the run-of-the-mill Christian nationalists, although Christian nationalism is already a hairy, scary, big damn deal.
Yeah,
that is trying to overturn the United States government, to undermine everything that our representative democratic republic stood for, and replace it with a theocracy. But the people I was talking to at that moment were extremists in that they were Reconstructionists following R.J. Rushdoony. And they were bragging about how many senators they had already placed that are in government now that hail from the Chalcedon Institute. So we have Reconstructionists in our federal legislation already, right? And so what do these people want to do? They don't just want to establish a theocracy. They want to establish a theocracy that enforces Levitical law, not just God's law, Levitical law. That's for anybody that doesn't know what Levitical law means. It means that you can be put to death for working on weekends. It means if you think Sharia law was bad, hold on to your ass.
Yeah. And like it's not in line with, most American values or democratic values, or at least what most of us would want it to be, right? Like there is kind of this conflation of church and state that we've seen, all these people like trying to put these 10 commandments documents or statutes, on grounds, but it's more than that, right? It's like what you're saying. There are people in power who want to literally push this agenda, like here in Texas. And you fought against this. I remember. Do you remember when they were putting Moses in the history books for the Texas education system, and put a line in there saying basically how, morality was brought to people through the 10 commandments through Moses, and that like ended up passing, right? Like isn't that now in some of those books?
It is. And it doesn't matter how many experts, how many PhD professors from what organizations presented solid evidence, not just that you don't have the evidence to make the claim that you're trying to teach, which should be enough.
Right.
But the fact that we have substantial evidence against it. It's not just that you can't cite a single founding father ever who implied in any way that our Constitution or our Bill of Rights or any of this was in any sense based on the 10 Commandments. It's not enough that lack of evidence. It's that we do have founding fathers who say in no way was our system based on Moses. It had nothing to do with the Ten Commandments. As a matter of fact, we're exactly the opposite of that. And obviously, I'm paraphrasing this. But the system of government that is commonly associated with the fictional character of Moses, were Moses to exist, he would adamantly hate every aspect of our representative democratic republic, wherein the people make and change the laws.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Moses would be like, the law is whatever I tell you God told me it is, and you believe what I said because God told me to tell you to believe what I said.
Yeah, kind of a surprise. The ancient Jewish people weren't super big fans of democracy. They lived under judges and kings and different tribal systems and stuff at one point, if you want to get really far back into it. But yeah, at no point were they ever a representative democracy, that had a constitution for their peoples or anything like that.
I've talked to a number of conservative Republicans in the last couple of years who have just come out and admit they want a king.
Yeah, some of them really do, don't they? Yeah, I know. It's so
but
bad.
to admit that.
Yeah.
That America is a failed experiment. Why? Because you have this thing called the American dream, where even brown people from foreign countries can come over here, and it doesn't even matter what their religion is if they're not Christian, that suddenly we have a meritocracy, where the idea is that your caste system only exists in India. It doesn't exist here. So if you come here, you're no longer part of any caste. You're just a person like everybody else. And you get to be an American. So I can go to India. I could live the rest of my life in India, but I'll never be Indian.
Sure.
But they can come over here and they'll be American. And we're the only country in the world that is like that. Where all of that past baggage of all of the religious discrimination and all of the things that they used to label on you in Europe or in Asia or wherever, all of that just simply evaporates here. Now it's a meritocracy. What can you do?
Yeah.
That was the game. That was what it was supposed to be. That's the American dream. And then Trump said that the American dream is dead, which is appropriate that he said that because he's the one who killed it.
Well, yeah. So why I think your work is important is, if people don't want to talk about some of these issues of young earth creationism or science or history or whatever, that's fine if you're not interested in it. But to put that in the public school education system, right? Or to put people in power, in authority, who are making policies, who do believe that, like, that is a problem, because that stops becoming the difference of opinion between two persons. That becomes, a policy, right? That becomes how we're going to live our lives. And I wish people
opinion. It's really not even opinion, because I've gotten admissions from these people, like on the Board of Education, that they are not going to teach what is factually accurate. That it matters more to them that the sequestered students, other people's children, are made to believe, even if they know it's not true. And I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but I've had a number of people admit to me that they know that what they believe is not true, but they're going to believe it anyway.
Yeah, that happens. And that happens more than what people think. Like, if you tell some people that, and that sounds crazy, but they will straight up say sometimes, like, yeah, it doesn't matter if it's true. It makes me feel good. And that's, I don't know. I can't live my life like that anymore. Maybe I could, but now I just really can't do that.